Hi, how are you doing? I'm doing great because I'm doing a book haul, which I know how ironic that is, that I ended off last year being like, hey, I'm not gonna do quarterly book hauls anymore because I don't buy enough books in a quarter to fully do quarterly book hauls anymore. I'm just gonna do them whenever I have enough books to talk about. And we're not even a quarter into the year and I'm already doing a book haul. I realize that, but I kind of went wild and I got no explanation for it, so you gotta deal with it. So I got a shitload of books to talk to you about, so let's do that. So, starting off with the first two books that I got this year. Technically, I got one book at the end of 2024, but I didn't think it would come in time for the end of the year, so I just went on to film my last quarterly book haul. I did get it before the end of the year, so that was in here, but that's good because these two books kind of go together, and that's Iron Widow and Heavenly Tyrant by Zhu and Jay Zhao. So I ordered both of these from my local bookstore, and what happened was that they basically said book 1 is gonna take a week, book 2 is gonna take 2 weeks. So I was like, it's the end of the year, it probably might take a bit longer. So and then I got Heavenly Tyrant within 2 days, which was great. This was kind of useless without book 1, because even though technically I read Iron Widow back when it first came out a couple of years ago now, I can get into the sequel without rereading Iron Widow because my memory is not that great, because like I said, it's been a couple of years. But this came out at the very end of last year and was one of my most anticipated books of last year, so obviously I had to get a copy. This is the second book, but I'll talk about book 1 later. So what happened then was that it took a really long time for Iron Widow to come, and so my mom had to go to the bookstore for like something else, and she was like, hey, my daughter ordered this book, they said it was gonna come in like a week, it's been almost a month, what happened? And they were like, yeah, so corporate canceled this order because we don't have it in stock anymore. You should have gotten an email saying that it was cancelled. I never got an email that it got cancelled, so I got pissed and ended up ordering it online instead. So yeah, this is Iron Widow book 1. This is a YA sci-fi following Zetchian. It's based on real Chinese history, but follows Zetchian, who is a girl living in this sci-fi, like in this futuristic world where they have like these fighting mechas thing that are powered by a male pilot and a female pilot. But what happens typically is that the female pilot ends up dying in battle because like the energy the male pilot like sucks out of them. So these girls typically are like concubines, and our female main character, her sister, was a concubine for this pilot, and she ended up being murdered by this pilot. Not within battle, but like generally just like, casual murder. But this pilot never really got punished for it, so Zetchian kind of takes it upon herself to volunteer as a concubine for the same pilot so she can go in and kill him as a revenge for her sister. And then a whole lot of shit goes down. I'm not gonna get into. Technically the synopsis tells you just like a little bit more, but I think that's just like the best setup to go into the series, because then there's more surprises and fun things. So there you go. This is book 1. Heavenly Tyrant has been the heavily anticipated sequel, and I can say that I read both, annotated both, and fucking love both. So I highly recommend getting into this series now. It was originally announced to be duology. This is not the end, so I am pissed off because it never got told to me that got changed. This has it to be continued at the end, and I mean the story definitely isn't finished. So there's gonna be a third book, which I'm very glad about because I do want to spend more time with these characters in this world, because I think it's just also well executed. But I just would have liked a heads up, because I was emotionally devastated by the end of this book, and I was just like, how are we gonna wrap this up in like 50 more pages? And then I realized that we weren't gonna do that. That was a journey I went on, but highly recommend both of these books. You're not gonna get as in-depth synopses for the books as these two, because I have not read them all, but I have read these two, so that's something. And then because I had to order Iron Widow online, I didn't have enough for free shipping, so I added on something else, because if I'm gonna pay that money anyway, why not get an extra book in return? And actually ended up getting 4 more books in return, because I bought the second era of Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, I quite literally, as I'm filming this, just made my way through era 1. So I'm very excited to delve into era 2, which basically the Mistborn world, I'm just going to give you a synopsis for the world, is this world, fantasy world, high fantasy world, with a magic system that's very based around metals. And then in era 1, we basically follow this ragtag group of, like, not criminals, but like kind of, who go to overthrow like the lord ruler of this world, who is like pretty evil. And you know, shit goes down. And then this series takes place like years and years and years later, and it's more gunpowder fantasy from what I've learned. So I'm actually very excited to see how a magic system that's so involved with like metals and different kind of metals, and how you can manipulate and do things with it, is going to be affected by guns being introduced into it. I have heard very mixed things about these 4 books within the series, so I don't know how this will go for me, because I was obsessed with era 1, so I don't know how this will go, but I am very intrigued by it. I'll get you all of the books out so you can see them. This series consists out of the Alloy of Law, Shadows of Self, the Bands of Mourning, and the Lost Metal. So yeah, like I said, I have heard very mixed things about this aspect of this series, but I am very, very excited to get into them, so hopefully that will be happening soon. And I thought it was great to have the entire series all held immediately. And then we are getting into this very large stack, which is the books I got in February. January was still like okay. February, something happened within me, I don't know. It all started with the release of The Band by Ellie Hazelwood, which of course I had to get on release date because I love Ellie Hazelwood. This is her latest release, and it follows Colette, who is a diver, and she was in college, and the last year she couldn't participate in like competitions or anything because she had an injury, and now she's back, but she has kind of like a mental block because of like an injury. Now she has like this mental block that prevents her from doing certain stuff that she has to do. And towards the start of this book, one of her teammates breaks up with her boyfriend, who is like the star swimmer of the school, because they sexually misalign. And this is such a wild setup, I know. And then right after the breakup, like at a party, this teammate gets like extremely drunk, and basically it's like, hey, you're into kinky shit, he's into kinky shit, do kinky shit together. And both of them kind of immediately like are like no, because like they barely know each other, and they're like, this is weird. You're drunk, shut up. But over like the next couple of weeks, they keep crossing paths, and they keep coming across each other, and you know, maybe this girl wasn't that far off with suggesting that they should hook up. So they do. And it's a romance. And I surprisingly love this. Again, this is one that I read. I read it within 24 hours of release dates. I was just so obsessed with it. But I really enjoyed this much more than I was expecting. And yeah, this genuinely might be my new favorite Ellie Hazelwood. It's great. Again, annotated this. Love that for me. And then while I was in the bookstore for that, I also had a little peruse, because you know, I can't go into a bookstore and just like not look at the shelf. And there was this one book that just, I don't know, his eyes kept following me around the bookstore. And I had debated about this book for so long if I wanted to read it or not. And because it was just following me around the room the entire time, I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna get it. And it's Quicksilver by Kelly Hart. This is a romantasy book. It has gotten very, very popular over like the last year. At first, when I saw this popping up, I saw this within like the booktubers that I follow that read a lot of romantasy, and just the way they were talking about it, I wasn't too sure if this was really my cup of tea. But then towards like the end of the year, and this popped up on like the Goodreads Choice Awards and everything, a lot of booktubers that don't typically read romantasy started reading this one and fucking loved it. So I was like, okay, I'll read it. I'll check it out. So here I am. I have not read it yet because this book is massive, but I have it. And actually, I'm quite excited to read this. So by the way, this is the Dutch edition, and it's stunning. Like, look at these stenciled edges. Aren't those gorgeous? And then it also has a reversible dust jacket, which I think is so much prettier than the actual cover of this book. Like, look at that. Don't you? I'm obsessed with that reversible dust jacket. I will definitely be turning that around once I've read it. And this is a naked hardback, nothing special there. And then the end pages are just the map. I don't know if that's anything special. But yeah, I have the standard edition of this book now. So it better be fucking good. I don't fully know what this is about. I know it's fake. That's where it is. But everything's fake nowadays, isn't it? And then next, this is another new release, and that's Milo Blijven Dromen by het team A. Milo is a Flemish TV show that I love, and I do this thing on my second channel in which I read these books, recap them, make fun videos about them. If you speak Dutch, go check that out. They're a lot of fun. So of course, well, they released a new one. I had to pick it up, even though this technically is for 11-year-olds. I'm way older than that. So I'll be reading them, but these generally just are really fun times, especially as a huge fan of the show. So yeah, I'll be checking it out. I don't know what this one in particular is about. I don't give a fuck. And then we arrive to the book Hall of Shame, which isn't really a shame because I desperately wanted all of these books. But basically, my mom and I went shopping, and I went into the bookstore with like this list of books I really wanted, because every time this is a different city, not like where I live. They have like a bunch of bigger bookstore than where I live, and every time I go in there with like a wish list, almost nothing of my wish list is there. So I had like this massive wish list, expecting to maybe find one book of it. I accidentally found everything I wanted and more. So I ended up getting 5 books. Yes, 5 books. So it isn't like a lot, but you know, it is an issue considering I shouldn't be buying this many books. Is what I'm saying. I'm trying to reduce the collection. It's not happening. But well, my main goal was for a Brandon Sanderson book, and I got You, Me, and the Nightmare Painter. This is one of his secret projects that I've heard a lot of great things about. This and Trust of the Emerald Seal, kind of like the 2 secret projects that I've been really wanting to read. So when I saw this on the shelf, I had to get it. And yeah, I don't remember fully what this is about. I knew at some point. I've heard amazing things about this, so I am very excited to delve into things and like read something else Brandon Sanderson that isn't Mistborn, because Stormlight Archive intimidates me too much. I also want to get into that, but like, that's scary. Those books are really fucking long. Then I also have Foul Heart Huntsman by Chloe Gone, because I wanted to get fantasy. This is fantasy, but also this wasn't technically on my wish list, but this is a book I've been meaning to get for so long, because this is a duology, and I just want to like knock out these books together to just complete the story in one go. So I kind of have been putting off reading book 1, which I have owned for quite some time now, Foul Lady Fortune, until I got this book, and I finally got myself to a point where I was like, okay, I need to read Foul Lady Fortune for a video. That's probably coming in March, maybe April, but I'm definitely reading it in March. Like that's like my next book to read, but I don't know when that video is coming out. That depends on how quickly I read. But because it's like I can put off like reading book 1 anymore, so I got to this point where I'm like, if I don't find it now, I'm probably gonna order it online, and then this will just like sitting on the shelf very beautifully for the first time ever. I've never seen it at a bookstore before, so there we go. This is fun. This is the second book in the duology. Like I said, that duology also is a spin-off of the These Violent Delights duology, which I really enjoyed, so I'm very excited to get into this. These are YA fantasies, and this duology in particular takes place in 1930 Shanghai. It's like historical fantasy, it's like gangs related, and yeah, this is supposedly also gonna be really good, so we'll see how that goes. And then we have like my main book that I wanted to get, this bookstore trip, and it is one I read, so it's definitely not adding to my TBR, so that's a good thing. And it's The Extraordinary Disappointments of Leopold Berry by Ransom Wiggs. And if you know me, you know that this is one of my favorite books of last year. I genuinely was so obsessed with this book. Like, Ransom Wiggs in general is one of my favorite authors, because I adore the Miss Peregrine series. Like, such a good series. Highly recommend in case you haven't read that yet. And this is his latest release, and also his first like novel that isn't Miss Peregrine's, I believe. So I just was so hyped for it, because I felt like this was fully gonna cement him as a favorite author, and it definitely did. Like, I just loved it. This book follows Leopold Berry, who, when he was a kid, his mom passed away, and he found these tapes that were in her possession that are from this like show called Sunderworld that aired, like, it was like a really weird fantasy show, kid show that like isn't well known at all. But he finds these tapes, becomes obsessed with the show, like to the point where he actually actively starts seeing things from the show in real life, and like is hallucinating them. And then over the years, as he's grown older, he has learned to kind of repress those things, because obviously people have been treating him as a weirdo because of him seeing those things. And he's gotten to a point now at the start of this novel where he is starting to see these things again. Only this time around, actually following the things that he's seeing, he accidentally ends up with his best friend in Sinner World, and everything's real that he's been seeing all this time. And it's so good. This is definitely a volume one, as it says. It definitely is just like a setup for the greater story of this. But I already was so obsessed with this book that I absolutely can't wait for its sequel. And I had to buy myself a physical copy. I originally got a Gallo de Swina Galley, but because I loved it so much, I had to get myself a copy so I could reread it before the sequel comes out. Also just to put a lot of my events and mixed books once I actually got a bookshelf because my books are still in boxes. But yeah, I love this. Again, go read this one if you haven't yet. Ugh. Can I just say that I might not have read many books in his book haul, but every single one I have is a 5-star. So that's something. Maybe I should get reading all the other books in this video. And this is the only book I read before buying it. So like, oh no, I also read Iron Widow before buying it. Sorry. But like still, that's a good track record. I should read the books in this haul. Then the next book I got, I also specifically went into the bookstore to try and find this one because I hate the new Magnolia Parks covers just like anyone else. So I really love the old ones, but I feel like it's pretty unpopular. I feel like people just kind of see the old covers as the lesser of two evils, but I've always thought they were stunning. So, but in my local bookstore always carries the new ones. Like I said, I hate those. So now that we went back to that store, which typically carries the old ones, I was like, I'm gonna look for the next Magnolia Parks book, like the most recent release, because that's the only one of the series I haven't read yet that's out, because I believe there's one more Daisy book coming as well, but I can get the pretty cover. They didn't have those, but they did have this. Which technically also has like the same design as the pretty covers, but just like in a fancy club-bound hardcover edition. I generally also don't ask me what editions these are. I have no fucking clue. But this is what they had. This was very expensive. I very much was on the fence if I wanted to get this because it is pretty expensive and I don't love this series that much. But my mom bought it to me as a treat, which I appreciate. I really do. But it is Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. This is the 5th book in the series. And yeah, the inside just has like this art and like a ribbon bookmark. It doesn't have anything like too special, but this is massive. And I know because it's hardcover, this is going to be a pain in the ass to read, but oh well. By the way, this is the back and the spine in case you want to see. But I have this now, and yeah, there we go. This is, how many pages is this book? 714 pages. Hardcover. Who does that to themselves? I do, apparently. And then the last book for this haul already is The Book of Bill by Alex Hirsch, which, you know, I'm a massive Gravity Falls fan, which you might not know about me because I'm not that open about it. But when it comes to like the outside media, like the extensive universe, I guess, outside of like the original show, I tend to just let other people tell me about it instead of like buying like the extra media. I know that's bad, but like I feel like other people also just pick up on more shit than I do, so therefore that's really helpful. But when I saw this in a bookstore, I couldn't help myself. I had to get it. So The Book of Bill basically is a book written by Bill, who is this like interdimensional demon. I guess, is he a demon really? I don't know, but he's a creature. I think technically he's a demon, I am not sure. In the show, he's kind of like the main antagonist in the show, and yeah, it is about his life, and there's supposed to be a lot of lore in this book, like a lot of hidden lore as well. So I am very excited to delve into this. I've watched YouTube videos of other people talking about this book, like different things in it, so I do know some of the lore that's in here, don't worry. And I have also had a little bit of a flick through, just kind of look at how absolutely stunningly crafted these pages are, but I have not given it a read, so that will also happen in the future someday. And yeah, that is my book haul. I hope you enjoyed. A lot of books for just 2 months. I don't know how I did it. And technically, I also ordered another book, but that has just been like, I've been getting so many delays for that, that is kind of pissing me off. That constantly getting emails of like, hey, just so you know, your shipment is getting delayed. I'm like, why? It's kind of pissing me off because they're also not giving me a reason why. They're just like, we're delaying your order, peace. But that's fine. Anyway, so technically there was like one more book that technically should be in here, but because it keeps getting delayed and it's now also not giving me like a date anymore, it's just saying like it's delayed, I don't know when it's coming. So I thought I wouldn't push this video off until I finally get the book in. You'll see that in my next haul anyway, which hopefully won't be until like quite some time. There will be a bigger gap this time because I really don't need this many books. I really don't. DVD though. So hopefully I'll be able to hold myself in these next couple of months. Let me know in the comments what you thought of these books if you've read them already, so I know which ones I to prioritize from the ones I haven't read yet. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you next time.
Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the God thing have to be so complicated? I should have played it